This year, I'm putting $1,500 towards all of my clients' purchases. So if that sounds good to you, send me a message. Back with another weekly video, keeping you up to date with Vancouver real estate. Coming into effect January 2025 is the BC house flipping tax at 20%. Let's have a quick chat about how it will affect the market and you and I. First of all, you may say this probably isn't going to apply to me because I don't actually flip houses. I don't buy and then I sell and renovate. Well, actually, what is flipping? Let's talk about that first. Flipping is buying and then selling the property. So yeah, actually you could be taxed just because you bought a property, lived in it, and then sold it. Keep in mind this tax only applies if you make money. It applies on the amount that you make money. So let's jump into it. Yes, if you do zero work on a house, but you sell it within 2 years of when you bought it, you will be taxed on the amount you made. And you may also be asking, now that you know it actually may apply to you, even though you're not a flipper, are there any exemptions? Yes, there are. And it seems actually like there's quite a few. There's a couple that they name on the official government site. Separation or divorce, there's a death, there's a disability or illness, there's a relocation for work, you lost a job, change in household membership, a breakup or something like that, personal safety, insolvency. And it says there are more cases that will be allowed as well, but it sounds like if you just bought a place and now you're like, we're ready to upsize because our family's growing, we'll have to see how this plays out, but that is technically a change in household membership if you have a new kid. But if maybe you're planning to have kids and you want to sell and find a place beforehand, that might not be enough to avoid the tax. Those exact questions are when you ask me to connect you with a lawyer, and you can get those answers ahead of time. So really quick, what is the point of this tax? Like, what is the goal by the government, right? Because they talk about what it's supposed to do. They've stated they are trying to make short-term real estate investment less attractive to deter flippers. And then that leads to less price increases in an area. The average price stays a bit lower if there's less flips. So lower real estate prices overall. Because there is truth in flippers usually buying a property, right? Their goal is to sell it for more than they bought it for. So now the average price when they go to sell it, after they bought it for 1 million, now they're selling it for 1.5. Average prices in the area go up because the next door neighbor, their value goes up if the neighborhood is worth more. That is true. And maybe if the flippers didn't buy that property for 1 million, that could have been a family that's just trying to get into the market, buying their first home. So of course, we'd rather that go to the family than people who are just turning it over to make money, right? Now, I know you watch these videos for the facts, not as much me, even though I think I'm pretty funny, but I share my view because I live and breathe in the industry every single day. So my thoughts are on this change it's kind of coming near election time. I think it is a little bit similar to the foreign buyers ban, where foreign buyers were banned after 2022. And in 2022, only 5% of purchases in Canada were from foreign buyers. And so if you take that 5% away, don't let any foreigners buy. Yes, there's more properties for us. How much? Well, I mean, not that many. It's not a drastic enough of a change or stoppage from foreign buyers to make prices be like, hey, now I see that prices are lower. Statistically, yes, a little bit. There's more people from here that are buying them. So that's kind of what we're trying to do. But with or without the foreign buyers ban, there's still the large issue, that the housing crisis, if you will. I brought up the foreign buyers ban and the numbers there just because homes flipped in 2023 was around 4%. 4% of homes altogether that were sold and flipped by flippers. It was 4%. Like 4% of the homes bought and sold. So it's a very small percentage. And that's why I say this may be a political thing. It's a for the people movement, and it is good. Again, it's just like the change is we're not going to notice any difference. If you're looking for homes, you're not going to notice a price difference because of this change. In the title, I may have said controversial. Here's why. Here is one of the reasons that I mentioned that, and that is because this tax is retroactive, which I don't know about you, but I don't think that is right. There's people who bought a month ago, 2 months ago, for example, with the plan to maybe flip or just, buy a pre-sale and it's going to complete in a year and then sell it. At the time they signed those contracts, there was no 20% tax. There was no word of it. There was no, they probably did the numbers in their head already and it made sense. And then the government's like, you know what? Got them. I'm going to change my mind. I'm going to take a little bit of money from you when you sell it. And really, you might say, yeah, well, investors buying pre-sales, whatever, they have money to lose. Yes, people often say developers are making crazy prices and but the thing is, the more housing overall, the more buildings built, the lower prices can be in the long run, the more homes. And a large way that these big developers and big buildings get built is that a lot of pre-sales and investors are sold into the building so they have enough money to actually build the structure. So we do need people buying into these pre-sales. And you might say, oh, rent it out and then they can sell it afterwards. But in case you weren't aware, when you rent out a property, it's not worth as much. It's very hard to kick tenants out right here in BC, which is good. But like in this situation, if you rent it out to a tenant and then you want to sell it now 3 years later, no investors are going to buy your property, because an investor cannot buy your property and then kick the tenant out, get a new tenant and have good rent. They can't do that, which means they're going to have market rent, the tenant that's in there, which means it's not going to be a great investment. And because of that, if you're selling a property and there's a tenant, investors are not going to buy it. There's less people who are willing to buy it. So overall, it is worth less. Long story short, people entered into these contracts and they didn't know there was another 20% that was going to come out of their pocket. Some of them probably may not have entered into those contracts. Last thing I'll say on this note is that there are properties out there that actually do benefit from having flippers, like communities that benefit from it. There are houses, when I go for walks here and there, I'm sure the same as you, in neighborhoods like Kitsilano or Point Grey or wherever, that are a bit dilapidated, run down, and barely livable. It would be way better if a developer could come in, buy the property, flip it, turn it into 4 properties, because now you can do that with our current zoning, or 6 properties or 8 properties, depending on the lot size, and then sell them, which, you know, they can still do that, but the project has to take more than 2 years for them to do. Sometimes it can be faster than that, and now they're going to be purposefully going slower to not get taxed. But at the end of the day, we do like when properties, over time, we get rid of the dilapidated houses, right? Not heritage houses. I'm talking about houses that are not the greatest curb appeal to your neighborhood. And if it's barely livable, it might be better actually to replace the house, because say the house is worth $1 million and a family is looking to get their first property, they can barely afford $1 million. Are they going to buy that house if it needs a ton of work and it's like kind of a financial risk? It might be better that a developer buys it and sells a duplex on each side for 800 grand. Again, those numbers would be higher here in Kitsilano in that area. That was just for an example. In the end, I don't know if I love this tax or not, because it can help make positive change to neighborhoods. And really, flippers are 4%, like I said, in 2022 of the homes bought and sold. So we're just not going to see a huge benefit from it. Subscribe below to keep up to date.